Today I'm going to talk on the effects of medical drone delivery on third world populations. Drones are something I'm very passionate about, and I've heard that they can be used for medical delivery, and specifically in third world countries, and so I wanted to know, well, what's actually happening? What difference is this making? So for a little bit of background, let's go over the needs that third world countries have medically. Just like Western countries, they need blood, they need medicine, and they need vaccines. But there's some differences and some similarities. Just like Western countries, they have accidents and injuries that require blood transfusions. If you get in a car wreck, there's births when you need, like when you're having a child, you need blood transfusions, you need medicine, and they have diseases just like we do. However, on top of those, they also have things that are unique to their country. Things like malaria, where Western worlds, it's not that big of a deal. However, in places like Rwanda and Ghana that I'm going to be focusing on, malaria is a big problem, and malaria can be helped and treated through blood transfusion. For things like vaccines and medicine, while we have viruses like the coronavirus is a huge one, and everyone in the whole world needs that vaccine, there are things like the Zika virus that never really affected us but affects people there. And so the distribution of blood and medicine and vaccines is a big problem in these countries. In Rwanda specifically, 36.4% of the days, or about 130 days out of the year, are rainy. And then the other days they call dry. Well, something that's important to remember is that just because it rained and then stopped raining doesn't mean that the ground still isn't wet. So traditionally, medicine and blood and vaccines have been delivered on roads that are kind of like this. They're dirt, they're muddy, and when it rains, it gets all flooded, and the delivery is no longer reliable. Transportation slows down, sometimes it just straight up doesn't make it. So what this means for us, if we're going to put this in a theoretical situation, we all know missionaries, and we all love missionaries and the effect that they have on our lives. So if you imagine a missionary in a country like Rwanda, where they're working really hard, they're going out there to help people. Let's say they're in someone's garden, and as they're out there gardening, some elder gets really enthusiastic to try to get rid of this weed, and he throws the hoe into his foot and is bleeding, right? His companion's like, oh no, loads him up onto his bicycle, pedals furiously to the local clinic, goes to the doctor and is like, please help my companion. Well, these local clinics in third world countries have a problem, and that is that they can't store enough blood all the time. Storage costs money, you have to keep blood cool, you have to have all the different types of blood, and that just is a lot of money. It's a difficult problem. And so typically they'll order in blood. They'll keep some on hand, and then they'll get what they need. Well, this elder had a type of blood that wasn't locally in store. So the doctor calls a bigger city who has either a blood bank or he calls a hospital. And when he calls this, he's like, hey, we need some blood. And they're like, great. They load it up into a truck or onto a motorcycle, and they head out. Well, if the roads 36% of the year might not be usable, that means that he can't necessarily reliably get his blood in time to not bleed out and die. So this is a big problem, because not only with injuries, not only there's births and there's diseases that need blood and everything, right? You don't want people to die. People's lives are hanging in the balance. So why are drones the solution? Why do they solve this problem? These pictures are all drones that are currently in use or designed, and what they do is they are actually a semi-limited range, but they're really fast, they're really energy efficient, and they are able to go over whatever terrain or whatever problems are there, including through inclement weather. Because there's no passengers, it doesn't matter if they get bounced up and down a lot, you just deliver what needs to be delivered. So drones provide a solution that are better than when cars and motorcycles and things like that can't go. Looking at this, something that many people don't actually realize is that full-on drone delivery is happening in two countries. Both Rwanda and Ghana have blood delivery programs set up through a company called Zipline Drones. And this is a little map of their distribution centers. In Rwanda specifically, 20% of blood delivery is done by this company, 20% of blood delivery outside of the capital. So, what does this look like in a third world country? What effect does this blood delivery have? We're going to take a look. First, we go over the medical benefits. Like I talked about earlier, reliability is increased. We have a 94% fulfillment rate. That's incredible. That means 94% of the blood needs are being met and vaccine needs and medicine needs. Timeliness, the average speed of drones can be anywhere between 60 to 100 miles an hour. That's really fast. You can't have a car on a dirty, muddy road go that quickly. It takes about a quarter of the time to deliver. And the other thing that's super applicable for today is vaccines and testing. We need to get vaccines distributed, and we also need test results for the coronavirus to be figured out. So you get a local test, they can ship your results to a lab that can analyze them, and then they'll say, oh, hey, you're positive or negative. And that's much, much quicker than having a car go both ways. So ultimately, it saves lives. The concerns medically are personnel, skill, and reactions. So I'll go over these. Personnel. People are nervous that even though the supply of blood and the supply of vaccines and medicine is increased, that there aren't personnel to actually distribute them. And that of the personnel that are there, they lack the skill to adequately use the resources that are provided. So to sum it up, that this is a reactionary solution. It doesn't change the problem that comes from having a lack of doctors or having a lack of trained personnel. The economical benefits, we can start right off with the cost per delivery. Millions and millions of vaccine doses for COVID-19 need to be distributed. Well, if you can save between 5 and 21 cents per vaccine, multiply that by several million, that's a lot of money. So drones in certain circumstances can save a lot of money for delivering vaccines. It also creates jobs. And these jobs aren't normal like manual labor jobs, but they're things that are more technical, which will also drive an increase the need for greater technical education, which will in turn help the whole economy improve. So there's a logistical saving that happens not only for delivery, but for operation. You don't have the maintenance costs for fuel and things like that. So overall, a lot of money saved. The concerns that come from using drone delivery are actually fascinating. There's the high overhead cost. You have to set up distribution centers, you have to buy drones, things like that. There's possible job loss, like what happens to traditional delivery drivers? These are questions that need to be answered because it's people's livelihoods. Then the most interesting one is that the problem isn't being solved. That when you fly drones, the roads aren't actually being improved. The roads are still a mess, which means the only thing that's still being delivered are medicine and blood and vaccines through drone. So you need to consider, okay, how much money are we going to put towards drones? How much money are we going to put towards roads to solve this problem long term? The societal benefits. I picked this picture specifically because of all the little children that are staring up at a drone. I kind of call this the NASA effect, that sometimes the general population doesn't know exactly what NASA has done for us, but it's super inspiring to know that people are going to the moon, that we've sent rovers to Mars, and things like that. Seeing drones fly over you provides inspiration. It also provides like a better perception of the medical community in general, and a lot more comfort knowing that if you are injured, that there's easy access to blood. The concerns that come are superstitions. It can be creepy, and privacy concerns to have something that flies over you that you haven't met or understood before. But the more interaction that people have with drones, the more that these concerns and fears go away. A lack of understanding is a big problem, but the more that they're used, the more we can teach people about them. In conclusion, drone delivery isn't about cost savings. It's not about, transforming a logistical network. It's about saving lives. And if we're able to, in this big city, save some of the people in here, then I think it's worth it. And it's important when we consider all of these numbers and all of these statistics that we remember that behind each number, behind every door and window in this picture, are people. And that these people need a quality of life that we enjoy, if not better. And that they need access to adequate healthcare so that they can live successfully. Thank you.